With a 50% obesity rate in the U.S. and more unhealthy people than ever before, it is time to make America healthy. Welcome to Make America Healthy with Beth Shaw. If you're feeling tired, toxic, heavy, slow, or stressed, then keep listening. Beth and her expert guests are here to offer practical advice and share the tools you need to reclaim your physical, mental, and emotional health. Now, here is your host, Beth Shaw.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Make America Healthy, where our goal is simply to educate you, inspire you, and enlighten you with tools to help you manage your physical and your mental health and just have as many good days as possible. In accordance with June as PTSD Awareness Month, we are talking about weight loss, weight gain, PTSD, and why you just can't lose that weight, which might even give you some more PTSD. We're joined by our repeat guest, Dr. Pam Peeke, who's also a good friend of mine. She is a nationally renowned physician, scientist, expert, and thought leader. She is also the author of 6 best-selling books. She serves on the American Council of Sports Medicine's Board of Trustees. She is affiliated with California, Berkeley, has fellowships, Olympian Foundation, Health Institutes of Health. Her bio is really long. And let's just say she is an expert in what she does and one of the smartest women in the health and wellness space that I know. And we're also joined by Rachel Lavin, who is a published author of the book called The Donut Diaries, something I don't eat because I'm gluten-free. And last I checked, there are no gluten-free donuts anywhere. And if there were, I probably wouldn't want to have them. But she's a professional speaker, a body love educator, health coach, personal trainer, and she has a lot of fitness certifications as well. So welcome, both of you, to the show. Pam, I would like to open it up with you. You haven't been on the show for about 1.5 years now. It's hard to believe we've been doing Make America Healthy for that long, and we're almost at our 100th episode. Since we have last spoken and we had you on the show, tell us kind of nationally in terms of health, wellness, obesity, what's changed? What's happening? I'm listening to all this great stuff on YouTube all the time. I see everybody's into intermittent fasting. I would only hope that we have gotten healthier as a nation, but perhaps you could educate me and the listeners on if that's true or not.
All right. What the heck does healthier mean? Beth, it's so wonderful to be back on the show with you. And I'm going to have you on my podcast as well, because you're all things, yoga fit. And I can't get enough of that as well. So my goodness, it's been 1.5 years, crying out loud. And all right, let's take a deep breath. Let's see where we are right now. All right, big, deep cleansing breath. Phew. All right. Well, if we keep going the way we're going right now, the over 50% of the American population by the year 2020, of the American adult population by the year 2020, will be categorized as obese. I'm a physician, so I use the term absolutely clinically. Anyone who knows me knows that when you enter my world, you enter a judgment-free world where I just deal directly with science and medicine as it's dictated as such, and led by a tremendous amount of compassion. So we're trending upwards is what I'm saying. The same thing is going on with children and adolescents. And we know that if an adolescent is obese, the chance that they will continue this into adulthood and struggle with it throughout adulthood is almost 100%. So these are tough numbers to look at. What in heaven's name is going on out there? Good grief. Well, let's just say, you and I talked about this, Beth, before, and that is the pandemic did not help. I think I quoted that during the lockdown, during those over 2 years, that someone who was just overweight, which was sort of the average for Americans to be overweight, gained on average 29 pounds. And if you were already obese, you added an extra 50 pounds. And
Wow.
this was
That's a lot of weight, 50 pounds.
yeah, but I'm not surprised whatsoever. It happens so easily, and people struggle already. And what they didn't need was to have the stress, the anxiety, the panic associated with what was going on in our global world. And basically having nowhere to go with any of that. Many people are also isolated, which is horrific, and they really don't have anyone else. So at the end of the day, we've sort of created one heck of an obesogenic environment, making it extremely easy not to move, and to oftentimes use food as an anesthetic, to be able to tamp down so much of the stress and trauma of what goes on in your life. And this is the kind of thing I typified in my book, The Hunger Fix, which really spoke to people moving into a vicious cycle of addictive eating habits that seem to spin and spiral out of control.
Yeah, I absolutely love that book, Pam, The Hunger Fix. What a great book that is, and so enlightening about food addiction, which, you know, people think about addiction, they think about alcohol addiction, drug addiction. Would you say that food addiction is a more sociably acceptable addiction to have?
Oh, there's no question about it. If you did have um, uh, different genes, and you were going to run into problems with drugs or alcohol or the rest of it, you would have teetered, to that end of the addiction spectrum. But there's no question. And plus, people write it off. They blow it off. Oh, it's just food. Well, I don't call Twinkies food. They're science fair projects. There's not a single ounce of anything I would call even close to food in those things. So what you have is ultra processed, extremely rewarding to the reward center in the brain types of products. Again, I don't even honor them by calling them food. If you want to see food, grab some, a wonderful omelet with tons of vegetables, and give me something that looks as though you cooked it, and again, it's not ultra processed. So that's kind of where I go to.
So, Pam, when we're looking at packaged foods and being gluten free, fortunately, I have the luxury of avoiding a lot of packaged foods, but I even find that a lot of the gluten-free packaged products have a lot of stuff in them that I probably shouldn't be putting in my body. And on top of that, I find in my experience, when I stay away from those things for a certain amount of time, I actually don't want them. Can we break food addictions or addictions to certain foods, sugar, carbs, by just staying away from it? And if so,
there's no question.
When do those cravings go away for people if they're white knuckling it through their Twinkie addictions?
So if you have addictive genes in your family,
I definitely do.
Yeah, if you have addictive genes in your family, then the best of all worlds is just not, it's not great to be surrounded by bingeables, as it
Right.
were. And so you can control your environment as best one can, but you also have to teach yourself, to be able to be more mindful and aware of what's actually transpiring. So right now you're stressed out. Oh my gosh, and you're feeling anxiety, and you have a deadline, and you may not meet it, and you're going crazy. What do people oftentimes do? They start grabbing for things. It's a very natural, habit to want to soothe oneself. You could soothe yourself with lots of addictive things, but food is kind of one of those, easier, more accessible ways to do it, and certainly more legal, as it were. So you have to calm yourself. Say, whoa, wait a minute. Obviously, I'm anxious. Obviously, I'm stressed out. I'm really panicked even. And so I'm mindlessly grabbing things. Stop, take a breath, and just say, something? Lead with self-compassion and say, I'm going to be okay. One way or the other, I'm going to be okay. But stuffing my face is not going to solve anything. And so I just need to maybe get up, take a few breaths, you can call a friend, do something else, take a walk, come back to it. You'll feel better, but you have to be able to do that amount of self-control by talking to yourself. It's a self-dialogue, tapping into that beautiful executive function that you have in your brain, and allowing it to work with you, to guide you with your intentions. So it's a mindful situation. It's a self-compassionate, you're soothing yourself in a very natural way, and then making yourself exquisitely aware of your behaviors.
So I'm going to take a little detour here because I know we're both big fans of meditation. And I use meditation as a stress management tool, especially sometimes late in the afternoon when I've had a very busy day and I know that I've got evening plans. And it's a great way to kind of take the garbage out of the mind of the day and then prepare for, whatever's to come. Would you recommend meditation? Because everything I'm hearing you say is a lot about self-awareness, which, some people have more of that than others. And would you say that meditation would be a great coping mechanism for those who are struggling with food addiction? And what have you seen with the clients that you work with if you, assign them a meditation protocol?
All right. So I'm laughing about meditation because I think I've told you this before, Beth. I got an F- in this most of my life. I mean, I'm like a quadruple A personality, always going, a million miles an hour and back and forth. And so it was very difficult for me to wrap my head around doing something like, chilling out. And now I'm an athlete. I'm a triathlete, a senior Olympic triathlete. So, I obviously work out, and while I'm exercising and doing my thing, I do a lot of walking and running meditations, and I spend a lot of time doing that. I'm also an outdoors person, so I'm a complete natureaholic. So I love just sort of combining all that with just mindful calmness as best I can. But I still couldn't get over that. It's like, can you sit in one place and just meditate? Until I met Bob Roth, who is the director of the David Lynch Foundation.
I know, Bob.
Yep, and
Yeah.
head of the whole TM organization. This is transcendental meditation. And so when I was told, the typical time for transcendental meditation is 20 minutes, I laughed out loud, I might add. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And I was taught by two phenomenal teachers, Mario and Linda Orsatti, who work closely with Bob. And they were phenomenal, and really wrapping their heads around a way to look at TM that worked for me. And I'm going to tell you that what I do is I cobble together a way to make it work. So I have my mantra. Everyone is given their own mantra. You can never share that with anyone. And then you do your thing. And I oftentimes combine it with a little bit of prayer. I like to cobble things together. So, I'm a Catholic in recovery. It's a joke because almost all of us ran away. And
And I went to Catholic school for 3 years, so I can relate.
no, I had
Okay.
the Dominican nuns for years. So, I'll throw in a Hail Mary there, and, anyone could do anything they want to with this thing. But I'm going to tell you right now, we now have hardcore scientific research and evidence that whether you just do plain mindful meditation or you go to something a little more structured like TM, et cetera, there's so many beautiful different ways to do this out there, that when you do this, when you incorporate it into your life as a practice, not like once a month or something, but as a practice, again, the 80-20 rule in the best of all worlds, what we actually find is that it improves executive function. And when it does, then you have a much better chance of being able to tap into that beautiful Swiss bank account of executive function. And by doing so, use it to be able to help rein in self-destructive behaviors. So all of this is something that's like a domino effect. You've got to be attentive to your physical self, to your spiritual self, to your self-reflective self, to your nutritional self. This is why I much prefer a more holistic, integrative approach and never treat a human being like they're some kind of science fair project. You never do that. You got to look at the person as a totality. And that's one of the reasons why, meditation, you call it whatever you want to call it. What I say is, hey, when's the last time you checked in with your best friend? Oh, I do that almost every day. Cool. When's the last time you checked in with yourself? Dead silence. Crickets. All right. People usually, give me a blank stare. It's like, well, now do you understand? If you can check in with your BFF, you can check in with yourself. So what does it mean to check in with yourself? Journal, be still, meditate.
I
All
also
kinds of things.
find it helpful to just ask the question when engaging in any type of behavior, decision, road to take. Is this serving my greatest health physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Or is it not? And, to advocate towards making choices that are going to serve, like you said, the totality of our beingness is so key because everything's so interrelated. And you can probably talk to, again, processed foods, sugars, carbohydrates, how that affects our executive function in a negative way, and then throws a lot of other things offline.
I know, there's no question about it. So, getting back to this whole issue of, the whole health issue, it's interesting. If one thing taught you, well, if there was something you got out of this whole, lockdown, this whole tragic mess that took place with the pandemic, is that the healthier you were, the more the greater the chance you had to be able to survive all this craziness at multiple levels. And your level of resilience and grit, it really is reliant upon a strong foundation of mind, body, spiritual fitness as a foundation. And so when you have to face a crazy, time like that, you can tap into that and say, I can get through this. I'm going to make this work one way or the other. We're going to survive this, as best you can. Clearly there's no guarantee with anything, but it just ups your, ability to be able to, increases your ability to be able to survive.
And, because June is PTSD Awareness Month, I find also, having had some childhood trauma in my life, using those daily affirmations, doing a lot of positive self-talk. During the pandemic, I had a lot more time to engage a better relationship with self because I was by myself, talking to myself, and realized at one point, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck with this mind forever. I better find a way to work with it a little bit better and accept it and guide it and nurture it. So a lot of the things you're talking about really do also relate to trauma. And then, of course, I'm sure you could educate our listeners on, much like they say, anyone or a lot of people who have a drug or alcohol addiction usually have some sort of childhood trauma that they're trying to alleviate the pain of. Would you say the same is true for food addiction?
This is one of my absolute sweet spot topics, as you know. When you look at a book like The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, Bessel and I are colleagues, and this is probably one of the most brilliant books I've ever read. There's another one you probably have read, obviously, Fierce Medicine, by that incredible yoga instructor who went through incredible trauma, Anna Forrest. And
let's not forget Healing Trauma with Yoga, which you actually wrote the foreword for.
That's a baseline. I mean, we already know about that. But just outside of your beautiful book, this whole issue of trauma is incredible. I go back to the research done by Vince Felitti, my physician colleague at Kaiser Permanente, who did the study a number of years ago, looking specifically. He was just doing sort of a population survey of a multitude of different kinds of ailments of the Kaiser Permanente population. And then he did an oh, by the way. And it's the oh, by the ways that almost always, are the golden egg. The oh, by the way was, have you ever, experienced childhood abuse and childhood trauma? And do you know that 1 out of 3 said yes? And people fell off.
And then probably there was another one in there that didn't remember or didn't want to remember.
Or blocked it.
Yeah.
And, the whole thing. And so it turns out it's exquisitely ubiquitous. And out of this came the Adverse Childhood Event, or ACE.
That's the first chapter in Healing Trauma with Yoga, is everybody needs to take the ACE test to see where they score so that they can then get into solution mode.
Exactly. And do you know, for the longest time in addiction medicine, they did not recognize trauma. And it took the American Psychological Association, Christine Courtois, who has a PhD in psychology and is one of the world's experts on basically what we call complex trauma involving childhood, adolescence, etc. She shepherded in through the APA the whole trauma-based certification now for psychologists to now basically sit down with people and ask the question. Physicians were not asking the question. Psychologists oftentimes were not asking the question, like, do you have a history of trauma? And the trauma could have been abandonment, neglect, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. I mean, you don't have to have a building fall on you. It could be the fact that you were just literally neglected during childhood. Well, if you actually then look at the spin-off and the consequences that take place in that person's life, oh my goodness gracious, the consequences are run like a laundry list. Everything from obesity to depression to suicidality,
high divorce rates,
absolutely,
inability to stay in a job.
Exactly. And this is why it's got to be recognized. This is why people need help identifying this. And then the solution is sitting down and coming up with a way to fashion newer, more productive, not self-destructive behaviors to be able to help yourself so that you can put an end to this one way or the other. Drug addiction and smoking, all the rest, alcoholism, they all also are associated with this. So I love to be able to, ask that question, because doors open to solutions when you do that. And you also honor that person's story, their narrative. Bullying, huge in school. Where do you think those kids go off to?
Well, and where do you think they learned it from, and why do you think they're doing it?
Right, exactly. And so, this is why when people say, oh, I want you to be healthy now. Well, what I always say is, sit down and tell me your story. I want to hear your story. And then we could pick it apart and look at the places where you struggle to be able to make all of this work. So when you actually look at addiction and PTSD and that type of thing, what you're looking at are people who need to be able to learn to soothe themselves in a very loving, self-compassionate way. And so physical activity, notice I didn't even say the E word, exercise. I said physical activity, just getting up, moving, honoring your body, feeling it, coming back from dissociation, which is where so many people are, mind-body dissociation.
Well, a lot of people don't even realize they have a body, I think.
Exactly. And you want to connect and rejoice in what that glorious body can do. So that's so important. So physical activity, whether it's Zumba,
Yoga,
Pilates, just walking, hiking, getting into nature. I'm not saying you join the Olympics. That's absurd. What I'm saying is just honor and enjoy, the human body. So that's going to be huge. Being able to nurture your body by eating foods that you find delicious, healthy, and that ideally you prepare. Obviously, nothing is perfect, but ideally, what you're putting in your mouth. And it's just, once again, just like your dissociated mind and body. So people become dissociated from food. I've had people who are so terrorized by their relationship, or lack thereof, with food, that their refrigerator is all but empty, their pantry's empty, because they're too terrified to keep food around. They don't know what to do. So they keep it ridiculously simple. And if you actually look at the weight control registry that Jim Hill put together years ago, almost over 20 years ago, what you'll find is that people who have shed pounds and kept them off for a very long time really keep their nurturing rather simple, because of the trauma of what they went through with countless ridiculous diets and stupidity that went on out there for so very long.
Right. And this is a great segue to say hello to our other guest, Rachel Lavin, who wrote a book called The Donut Diaries. Rachel, give us a quick summation of your story, your history, and a little bit about what the Donut Diaries are about.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's very nice to meet you, Pamela. And I have been in the fitness industry for over 23 years. And my book is my journey, my story of coming out of being on restrictive diets my whole life, gaining and losing my whole life, using, food and exercise to fix myself. And when I turned 40, I just realized that I've had enough of this and I want to be happy, but how am I going to get there? How am I going to get there and have it be sustainable? So I had to, and just like you ladies have been talking about, I had to go back and deal with my trauma and deal with the things that were said to me, that were done to me, that I continued to do to myself, and realize that I could only save myself And I was the only one who could self-soothe, who could make the decision that I was going to eat to nourish my body, not to just make it smaller, and that I was going to move my body, that I could feel good and feel healthy instead of using it to make my body smaller. So all this was such a disconnect in my mind until I decided to put the pieces together. So not only did I write my book in the pandemic because like we had so much time, but that's when I really started to kind of come out of this restrictive prison that I had been in for so long. And my message is to really share with women that, you know, we're here to move our bodies, we're here to be happy, but you're not going to be able to get there if you don't fix what's been, you know, hanging on from such a young age.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And welcome to Make America Healthy.
Thanks.
Pam, I want to ask you a question about addiction. Also as it relates to trauma. So I'll give you two scenarios and you give me your thoughts. You said, you know, one in three people identified that they had trauma, and perhaps the other one of them didn't know. What would you say about someone who perhaps started binge drinking at age 13 for, let's say, 20 years, but claims they had a utopian, perfect childhood?
Okay, well, wait, you know, given very little information about this, first of all, binge drinking is horrific. I would say 9 out of 10, they have alcoholism in their genes. And remember, genes can skip generations. So
Right.
I would put, you know, dollars to donuts. That they more than likely have an addictive gene. And as far as having a perfect childhood, they may have absolutely incredible parents, maybe a great family life, but the addictive gene for alcoholism will supervene over almost anything else.
And can that be measured now with a standard blood test to see if you have the addiction gene?
Well, okay, there's no addiction gene. What you actually see are a constellation of genes. And, you know, this isn't something that you can, you know, just get off 23andMe or something, you know, if things were that easy. But we do see some unique genetic characteristics for people who have true, you know, ass-kicking alcoholism in terms of genetic lineage.
Okay, and the next question on top of that is cross addictions. A lot of times people stop with the drugs and the alcohol and then become food addicts.
Well, there's a reason for this. All right, let's think about this for a second. There's a part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens. That is the reward center of the brain. Now, the reward center is used to the reward. Let's just stick with food only. The reward of, say, an apple. So if I'm out there in the wild and I eat an apple, oh my gosh, you know, my reward center just lights up because it's sweet in a very natural way. It feels great. The texture's good. The whole damn experience is awesome. Okay. So the reward center is set up to be able to acknowledge sweetness like that. So if I find blueberries or raspberries, a banana, something like that, that is natural, that's the level of sweetness that the reward center is used to. Okay. And that's also the kind of high it gets. It feels really good. I want more of that type of thing. All right. Now we go to methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine. Let's go to that place for a second. Right?
That's a big detour.
That's a big detour. So you start with drugs, right? And what do? Their main job in life is to light up the reward center. Now,
dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine.
Absolutely. So what will happen is when the reward center is ignited, dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter of pleasure, will be secreted. No question about it. Now, let's do it to my brain. I have absolutely no alcoholism or heavy duty drug genetics for addiction in my family or in my body. So I'm used to kind of the apple banana thing, for reward. Now, if you were to give me heroin right now, somehow, or whatever, my reward center would react, right? And I would feel.
Is it going to react tenfold? I mean, I don't have any experience with this, but is it going to be like an apple 10x my apple?
Exactly. What it does is it's like apple times 10 to the millionth.
Okay.
It's through the ceiling. But if I'm not someone who is vulnerable by having an addictive vulnerability and tendency, genetically or otherwise, mostly genetically, then I will have absolutely no craving. I will not want more, and I'll walk away. Okay. But if you take someone who has a genetic predisposition, who's also traumatized, all right, they're in a tough situation, whatever, they're getting bullied at school, whatever may be happening. Now you have a problem, because now you're going to float away. You're anesthetized. The pain, the psychic pain is less. And now you've got a problem, because now you want more and more. And so.
And what percentage of the population, Pam, would you really say have this genetic predisposition, the addiction gene or genealogy, if you will? And not even talking about, average of 1 in 4 people, or 1 in 3, as you stated, having trauma.
We don't know. And I'll tell you why. Because tons and tons and tons of people may have a genetic predisposition, but it never expresses itself. And so, just for instance, I'll give you an example when it comes to this genetics. The obesity gene, the FTO gene is what it's called. The obesity gene is ubiquitous globally, and it has a penetrance of about, 65% at least globally. Well, why don't we see 65% obesity globally? It's because it will express itself variably. So you may have 10% of that FTO gene, I may have 20%, and somebody else has 50%. So the person with 50% expression is the one who's really going to be more vulnerable to obesity than you and me. I have the FTO gene. I found it on my 23andMe, and they're
going to have to look at mine now and see if I have it.
It's everywhere. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, well, but I'm not obese because I didn't grow up in an obesogenic environment. And I just, it didn't work out like that. Whereas someone else could have been born in exactly the same environment, but their expression's much higher. And, they may not be obese. Maybe they'll be more overweight. You see, it's a variable expression. You don't go from 0 to obese unless both parents are obese. So if one parent is obese, it's kind of a crapshoot. If both parents are obese, you will have some issues. There will be, more than likely overweightedness. And will you be kind of a more normal weighted person? Sure, you can do that too, but you'll probably have to work for it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be hard work. So, Bruce Lipton, epigenetics, you can outwit your DNA by healthy lifestyle choices and behavior. Am I hearing from you that we definitely can outwit this obesity gene, even if we have it?
Oh, yeah, there's no question. We already have really intense and lovely research that's shown if you have a full-on expression of the FTO gene, and they measure this, and then they simply they don't even mess with your dietary intake. They simply ask you to walk, and you walk an hour a day religiously. And these are people who are always sedentary. And after the course of 6 to 12 months of this, they look at the expression of the FTO gene and it's down. So what you've done is you've tamped down on your own genetic expression. That's how powerful something as simple and as straightforward is
And
as physical activity.
That is so powerful because, the first time I met a female bodybuilder in my life, she said, don't forget, diet is 75% of it. And you listen to more current science and they say diet is 80% of it. So what I'm hearing from you is even that 20% of just moving the body. And we all know, you can out eat any exercise program. So even this 20% entrance of movement sounds like it's making a huge difference.
It makes a very big difference, but it's complementary to what you're doing with nutrition. I'd like to pick up on something Rachel said, which was really interesting to me. And that is, Rachel, you said, I wasn't concentrating on becoming small. You use that word several times. And I want to run with that. So I'm a body composition expert. All I care about is body composition. So, being small to me is insulting. I don't like small. What I like is I want more muscle than Carter-S pills, and I'll take it as far as my own genetics will take it. I happen to be a muscular triathlete. So, you can't hope for that. You just, you're born with that. You literally run with that. All right. But, if people were to spend more time concentrating on the quality of their body and not the overall quantity, we would be in much better shape.
So what you're saying to people is focus on building muscle and reducing your body mass index or your body fat.
No, yeah, the BMI is going to come down anyway. What I'm saying is optimize your muscle by doing physical activity on a routine basis, all right, and be diverse with it. Do everything. I mean, I do, martial arts, I do Pilates, I do your yoga, I do my yoga fit. And, obviously I do all the outdoor sports as well, and spend a goodly amount of time in the gym. Does this mean I live, doing nothing but physical? What are you, crazy or something? I'm as busy as can be with everything else. But, I insert it here and there because it's joyful to me. I celebrate the fact that my body still works, and I'm able to do my thing. But as you get older, especially over the age of 40, 50, and definitely 60 and beyond, what you want to do is build muscle and hold on to it. Keep it prime. And
thank you for sharing that. I have 5 extra pounds on my body that I can't seem to get rid of, even though I have 71 pounds of muscle on my body now, which is kind of an all-time high for me. And my body fat is about 16-17%. I'm like, well, where's this extra 5 pounds hiding? I guess it's hiding in the muscle.
Well, you know what you should do, and I recommend everyone out there do this. Stop weighing yourself with those.
I don't weigh myself. No, I get on the InBody like twice a month.
Yeah, just do body composition.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of cool apps out there with body composition scales. And what they'll do is they'll give you a fantastic breakdown of where you are right now. And it's very important to know this information because it'll give you such a sense of accomplishment when you see that, over the course of 6 weeks, you built an entire pound of muscle.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly it can go from one direction to the other.
I want women, especially out there, to celebrate that they actually, put on some muscle, because it for about 900 reasons, it's one of the best things you ever did. Because as you get older, you have to know that you've got to stay vertical and independent. So if you fell down on the floor right now, would you be able to pick yourself up? Could you do that? All right. Well, if the answer is no, we have a little problem. What's going on now outside of obvious physical impairment and disabilities? I'm not talking about that. I'm saying for an average person right now, can you get up? Do you know how to do that? Really, quite frankly, it's just sort of a modified push-up.
Well, there's a fitness test too, where you're not supposed to put your hands on the floor to help yourself up,
I
and
don't
you're
like
supposed
that
to,
one.
you don't like that one?
No,
Okay.
I don't like that one, especially that's fine for 20-year-olds. As you get older, right? Don't shame yourself because you can't do something like that, because people's knees don't work very well. You have to have really great knees to be able to make that work. I have difficulty with it, and I'm incredibly strong, but my knees over time, took a hit.
Well, all those marathons you were running, I'm sure, took their toll.
Well, there you go. But, I came by it honestly, to say the least. But, really, honestly, can you do just even a bent knee push-up? How important is that? Because one day you'll fall, no one else will be around, and you have to be able to get up and do your thing. Are you independent enough physically to be able to do that? See, I'm someone who firmly believes in functional fitness. So can you put it to work? I don't just build, great biceps for the sake of building great biceps. I can lift everything. I can lift what I need. A huge bag of compost, my dog's kibble, which is 25-pound, bags.
Or one of your dogs, right?
Well, one of my dogs, 100 pounds. I mean, German shepherds don't like being lifted. That's not a good place to go to. But still, I love functional fitness.
Right.
That's so terribly important. So, Rachel, I'm glad you brought up the issue of small. Many of us came from eras where it was all about, I want to be small and dainty and skinny. And it's like, don't you ever call me skinny. It's like, I want you to walk up to me and say, damn, girl, you look fit. You look like you could just sort of rip someone's face off. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to hear. Versus, and you look so skinny and dainty and whatever. It's like, no, don't do that. It's like, that is so last year, last decade, last millennium.
We're about 7 minutes away from the close of the show. So I'd like to jump topic to the importance of community in terms of support for whether it's getting over your childhood trauma, dealing with PTSD, losing weight. At YogaFit, we run several online weight loss and weight management groups called Yoga Lean, and it gives us all a great sense of community to be together online 3-4 times a week. Rachel, can you share with us the role of community that helped you get where you are now in a mindset space? And also you can add, detractors who perhaps weren't very helpful to you on your journey, and how those both play out.
Okay. I strongly believe in community, especially women who are wanting to live their healthiest, best life and don't want to come together and just talk about their bodies or talk about what diets they're on. It's time to get past that. And I love what you said, Pamela. It's like, we are here. The older we get, the more muscle we have, the better off we're going to be able to stay independent. I love that so much. That's beautiful. And I think that when we have women in our life who are always building themselves up and you're building yourself up, it just becomes a positive experience, and you want to share that. I also know what it's like to be in a group of women who all we're doing is talking about how poorly our body looks, or how we don't fit into this mold, or how we don't. So I've been on both sides of that. And I will say that with the women that I work with, I know that it takes time to get over those old tapes and those things that we've instilled in us, but it's important. It's very important to get past that and to be able to I love what you said in the beginning of the show, Beth. We have to speak positively and kindly to ourselves. That is crucial on how we're going to break those unfortunate ties that we've associated with our bodies and how we're supposed to look, as opposed to taking and embracing the body that we have and making it the best body we can. So
that's exactly it. You know, we're each gifted with different genetics, different genetic expressions. But if you can be the best possible you that you can be, whether you're of a more kapha body type, or a thinner body type, or whatever body type you have, or height that you have, we're kind of stuck in these bodies. So we should not only embrace them, but make them the best that they can possibly be. And that's where all of this really comes together. And in order to be able to do that, you need to have a mind that is working to help you achieve your goals, and not a mind that is beating yourself up for, what you did last week, or what you thought you should do today, or how you want to be, because we never really get there anyway. And even if we do, it can be very short-lived. So just to continue to work on the relationship with the self in whatever way one needs to do that, you end up having more of the body that you want to have. And is that the place, Rachel, that you find yourself today after a lifelong struggle with weight loss and weight gain and negative self-talk? Are you happy with the place that you're at today? Truly happy?
I am truly happy, but I also want to be honest with your listeners, is that I do have my days where it's harder. It's harder to love my body. It's harder to love myself. But because I've spent so much time creating a positive self-talk and positive belief system, it's easier to get myself out of that. I don't say stuff the way I used to for days, weeks, months. It's moments now, which I'm very grateful for. But yes, I am truly happy with myself, with my body, with my life, with all of it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Pam, please tell our listeners where they can find you.
Here I am in my office, just sitting here. You can find me right here. You can just run on over to drpeeke.com, and my social media is all under Dr. Pam Peeke. So you can I'm an active Twitter person in a major way, and
I'm glad someone still is on Twitter.
Hey, you know something? I have a really cool community there. And so I really enjoy it. I try not to, deal with all the craziness and the politics and the whatever back and forth. And now that we found out that Instagram's a real problem, if you've been reading the news, oh my goodness gracious, those people can't get it right. So, but really, honestly, just run over to drpeeke.com and you can see all my social media right there.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. And be sure to check out Pam's books. You can get them anywhere books are sold. Rachel, where can we find you?
I too am on social media, and I'm going to have to investigate this Instagram thing. But I am on Instagram and under Rachel Lavin Wellness. My website is also Rachel Lavin Wellness, and my book is on Amazon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We'd like to thank the sponsors of our show today, Yoga Fit Training Systems Worldwide, the leader in yoga, mind, body, fitness education since 1997, educating hundreds of thousands of people around the world in how to take better care of their physical and mental health with yoga and other mindfulness tools, offering corporate wellness now, yoga, fit in the healthcare system, and we have a subscription platform on YogaFit as well. You can also check me out via my website, bethshaw.com, or on Instagram at Beth Shaw Health. Thank you both so much for this show. As always, it's always good to get back into the body on Make America Healthy. And remember, listeners, move your body. Listen to Dr. Peeke. Get out there and move. It'll make a big difference, even if you don't change one bite of food that you're eating. If you enjoyed this show, please share it. And until next time, everyone, stay healthy, stay happy, stay peaceful, stay calm, keep doing your positive affirmations, and have a beautiful, healthy day. Let's make America healthy. Namaste.
All clear.
Okay,
Thank you.
so you want to know what that is, Rachel? They just found out that Instagram has a huge network of pedophiles. And so now they're calling it pedogram, and it is all over the news.
I mean, apparently pedophiles are everywhere.
But I mean, like, this is right under their nose, and they figured out, where it was. You know how it happened, Beth? It was some academicians, some professors, some guy at the Stanford Internet Surveillance Hoo-Ha something Institute, and with very little access, to Instagram, they were able to discover it, and it was huge with the most horrible hashtags, and yet.
So let me ask you something. I mean, aren't they kind of trolling? Like, I'm assuming people were posting like pedophile photos or something on Instagram.
Everything.
And
they were doing everything from, meetups to photos to just, grooming and all kinds of horrible stuff. It's all over the news. New York Times, everything's like, these guys can't get it right over there in the meta world because they own all this stuff.
Well, it sounds like it's a good time to buy Instagram stock.
I'm just saying,
Who owns them, by the way?
Oh, no, that's Zuckerberg.
Oh, so he's part of the whole Facebook thing. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think those people are all evil, twisted, and probably from another planet. And if not, they actually should be sent there. So Pam, thank you so much. Rachel, thank you so much.
Pam,
please share this show.
Your website?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to follow you. Thank you.
You're so cute. Hey, follow me on Twitter. Okay. Because and reach out to me. Go, yo, it's Rachel from, and then I'll know. Okay. And
am I the only one that doesn't have a Twitter account?
I don't tweet either. I just never really got into it.
All right. You just follow me anyway. Who the hell?
Okay. All right. Rachel, let's connect on Instagram, and I'd love to send you one of my books and you send me your donut diaries. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right. Ladies, have a great night.
Oh, thank you. Oh yeah. Just email me at beth@yogafit.com and we'll sort that out.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. Thank you, Pam. So nice to see you. Bye. Pam, I'll see you on your show. Okay. Bye.